Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H event space. You are tuned into 10 Images, 10 Stories, hosted by Sony. This is a wonderful series that we've been doing, letting the artists that we love and who have been kind enough to grace our platform here over the years coming on and having a loose talk about the images that they love. So often we get caught up in teaching and we don't focus on these are the images that are precious to me. So I would like to welcome back. We had to wait for you to stop traveling, Ira, an old friend of the event space here, Ira Block. How's it going?
It's going well. Yes, it's amazing. I've been home for a couple of months.
I'm
Uh,
shocked.
yeah, I'm feeling a little nervous and anxious. I got to get out, go somewhere.
When's the next? How long are you down before the next trip?
I think I'm going away mid-January, going back to Cuba. Surprise, huh?
Back to Q surprise. How many times a year is it now? Was it down
Well,
to
just a few times a year, but I think I've been there about 20 times.
just a few times a year? I'm still waiting
Yeah.
for my first trip.
Well,
Uh,
get on board, learn a
I
little
know.
Spanish, help me out.
Help. There you go. You got to help me out, man. Help you out. You're the OG down there. You got everything all figured out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna dive in, Ira. I was excited. I can't lie. Really wanted to see what images you chose because, like I said, to start this whole thing off, a lot of times it's like we show the images that we have to teach something with, or that other people want to see, or they fit into some kind of box related to what we're doing. But it's always different when the artists get to have their say on the images that they like and why they like them, the stories behind them. So this is our chance. So I'm gonna let you take over here. I'm gonna be controlling the images, but talk us through.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Yeah, it's hard to pick 10 favorite images, but the story part is always good. Every image has a story behind it. No image goes without something affecting you as a photographer. Either the good light, the good moment, something happens, and that's the story behind it. But I chose images that had more unique stories. And I'm going to start off with this first image, which everyone has said to me, how'd you Photoshop that fish in? Uh, why did you Photoshop it? And I'm going, it's not. I don't Photoshop. I don't know how to do advanced things. I have people that know how to do that, but we don't do that usually. And I was surprised when I saw this image. This was taken in Myanmar on Inlay Lake. And usually, Inlay Lake, the fishermen are posing for tourists. It's the guys with the big conical nets standing on the boats, holding, with the interesting looking straw hats. It's a real Instagram spot. And of course, I did do a few, but then I decided, let's find a real fisherman. And I found this guy and I was photographing him. And when I got back and did a careful look through the images, I found this and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I didn't know whether the fish had jumped out of the water and just caught it in midair, or more than likely, the fish is being thrown back in, but I still don't understand it. So this story is sort of a mystery still to me. And you notice the reflection in the water, you see the fishermen, and you actually see the reflection of our flying fish.
That's the proof right there.
Well, I
That's the
guess
proof of life.
I guess with AI you could probably put the reflection in if you wanted, but really, it was just I was photographing him, and you noticed in the background, so we'll put a little teaching learning in there. I've got a couple other boats, and then the far background, there's a mountain range. So I have some layering. It's that beautiful early morning light, golden light reflecting off the water. And this guy's the real deal. He's a real fisherman. He's got the not the Instagram clothing on. He's wearing just a wool hat. And for me, the story was not realizing it when I was shooting. I must have been running the burst rate on the camera and didn't really notice, and then until I took a careful look on the computer.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest part about the image. I mean, even if you take the fish out, like you said, it's still technically it's a beautiful image. It's nicely composed. It has all those storytelling elements to it. But the fish and then you not realizing, because I think we can all relate to that, where you go back through and you're like, damn, wow, I didn't realize I got this.
Yeah, and that's why never delete on the camera, because you're looking at it, you're not, unless you're really sitting there magnifying and going through the images, you never know what you're going to miss. So
How often do
I
you go through and look at your images, or are you kind of just shooting and moving on?
I usually look at the first one or two to make sure everything's working. I'm in sync with the light, with the subject, and then I just keep shooting. And then maybe if there's some downtime afterwards, I'll go through and I'll go, "Oh, you're so good, Ira. You got a nice picture." Or, "Oh, you really suck. You missed that one, idiot." Just, going through. Usually I'm never satisfied. I need, "Oh, this could have been better, or that could have been better." Once you become satisfied with your images, you're in trouble, because you start believing your own say bullshit. But I guess can I say that?
Yeah. I
All right,
mean,
I
yeah,
did.
you learn to settle for mediocrity.
So this image just had an interesting story, and especially because afterwards everybody was saying it was photoshopped.
No, I love it. We'll move on to this one. I mean, I'm sensing a theme here. Timing. We already know the composition, but the timing, everything's
Yeah, I
just
guess
perfect.
we do have a timing theme here, right? We got
Two images and two perfectly timed shots.
yeah, this was a really wonderful story for me. When I was working on my Cuba baseball book, I was walking through the streets of Havana and just trying to find kids playing ball. And I found this group of kids and just started following them around while they were playing ball on this small street. And as the day progressed, the light got really better, and you had these great long shadows. And on the ground level, you could see the shadows, but I just knew it'd be a lot better if I could do it from above. And
Mm.
I'm looking around, and right above us is an apartment with a balcony filled with laundry, of course. So I go in the building, go up to the second floor, knock on the door, and some people answer. And I don't think I had anybody with me at that point. And my Spanish has never been great. It's usually good enough for restaurants and bars. But I somehow explained to the people that I wanted to go on their balcony and do a photo. And they let me, I walked in through their apartment and I get out on the balcony, and then I've got to get the lady of the house there because I need to move all this laundry out of the way that's blocking the shot. So I finally get there, and it was, yeah, perfect timing because the white ball is really showing up because it's in a shadow. And then to the right of the white ball is the shadow of the ball. So I've got a lot going on, and I just caught it at the right moment.
Everything's perfect. I mean, we discussed this image when we spoke last week, and it's like the little things. It's the chunk of rock or garbage or whatever it is on the left that is in the street. It's the shadow to the kid, the shadow to the left of the catcher, the shadow, which I don't even know. I didn't even think to ask you what the structure was that is providing the shadow for the ball to pop out. Do you remember
I
what that was?
I'm trying to think. It's in the middle of the street. It could be a car parked somewhere. I'm not, it
Yeah,
doesn't look like a
I was
car.
trying to think, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, is it like a bike with something packed? But I mean, my point being, all the shadows, the fact that the shadow from the ball is up against a bright spot, everything is so. And I just noticed it now. The in the shadow of the kid swinging the bat, his foot being twisted up in the back, it just comes to like a point. It creates like that little diamond. It's all those
Yeah,
little
yeah. I'm trying to think
things.
what that yeah, that's
It's like
the behind the knee with an extra shadow in it,
yeah,
an
it's
extra
just all that
line.
little the little serendipitous things, obviously the textiles and the splash of color there. I'm trying to think what the hell when you're walking up to somebody, first of all, not being fluent in Spanish. I know how hard that makes it. And then trying to explain why you're up there, like why you want an image of this. Do they get it? Or are they because I feel like sometimes I'll go to take pictures on the street and people are looking at me like, what is this guy taking pictures of? Why are you taking pictures of that?
I think when I was up there and I pointed down to the kids playing, I probably showed her a couple of the pictures from the ground level. And so she sort of got an idea what I was doing. And, you're up there and you're looking down. She saw the shadow. She had to have a feeling of, amazement, like, wow, look, that, shadow of the guy swinging the bat is amazing.
She's like, wow, this guy's got an eye.
Yeah, right. She, I should have asked her, do you want to take one of my photo courses?
You got to get a local photo following down there. We'll
Yeah.
move into this one. So because you're you, Ira, I was like, we were talking about this image and something jumped out. It's like, all right, we have 10 images, yeah, but how many times is it the couple of images leading up to the one? So we threw in a 4-part image here showing how this photo opportunity laid out for you. So talk us through this one.
All right. So this is in Rajasthan in India. And just the story behind this is my thought process, how I make things come together, or I don't actually make things come together. I guess I see a potential and then I wait for things coming together. So I'm in, walking the streets early in the morning, and there's a cow in the street, which is pretty common in India. And there's this guy walking down the street, looks pretty good. So the upper left hand corner is when I first spot it. And I'm thinking, oh, all right, there's some potential here. Let's wait for the guy to get a little closer. And in the upper right, he's getting he's getting, well, see, no, the lower left, he's starting to get closer, and I've got the cow, and then I've got out of the corner of my eye, I saw the woman walking by with the hands on her head and her face covered. So I'm sort of getting that into picture now. And then she walks a little further in the lower right, and she's covering the woman behind her, that woman standing near the doorway. I just thought the woman in the doorway complicated the picture too much and covered up some of the, and where the woman with the pans on her head was covering the cow. So the lower right hand corner photo is the one that for me comes all together, because the cow's important, the guy's close, you have the woman walking with the hands on her head, and way in the back you could see there's some guy in a doorway there. So I've got layers, I put it all together, and it just is a way of showing patience when you're seeing street photography and something coming together for you.
Yeah, I personally love seeing this, and I think it would have been a disservice to the final image just to see the final image. I think it's the thought process and the patience that come through when you talk about it. There's as you're talking, I'm looking and I'm like, okay, I might like really like this one thing in this shot, but then in this shot, like this one thing, and then it starts to become like a prioritization of what really does this shining point in this image outshine the one in this, or does this have more of what you want to see? Like I love that hilltop peeking in the background that you don't have in the top two images that you have in the bottom two. And then just even like the positioning of every like the arm structure and how much all that stuff matters. I don't know. I mean, I think it makes it way more interesting to see what came before and then how you decided and how you got to the decision of which shot. And are you, is this a situation where you're, because proximity, which did your proximity change? Are you zooming? How do you handle that?
I'm moving a little bit, and I'm probably, looks like, let me see the image. I'm not zooming much because I'm looking at the background sizes. I probably had the 24 to 70 Sony lens on the camera, which is my typical walking around lens, because it does give me that range if I did have to zoom.
Mhm.
And I feel I do probably 90% of my photos with that lens. It just fits in with my street photography, with my cultural documentary photography. It just sort of gets people in the environment and helps tell the story.
Mm. And you still have that long end of it when you want to get in a little
If I,
tighter
yeah,
and
yeah, if you have to do, if there's a great portrait coming up, then you could go to 70 and get close in on a face. But
mm,
usually I like to, you know, my special feeling is when I've got people in an environment and you understand the person and you understand where they live, and there's a bit of a story in one frame.
yeah, definitely. I love the environmental aspect, and the added bonus is when you can layer it all together and have everything line up right where it is, like you were saying with that patience.
Yeah, the layering thing is really tough to explain to people how you do it. Eh, you can't learn that by watching a video, or even me teaching it. I could point it out, but to actually implement it, you need to just practice. You just
Yeah,
need to get out there and size relationships. And when it works, it works. And when it doesn't work, it doesn't. And you learn from the mistakes of when things don't work, how to do it better the next time.
definitely. Now this is another we have a diptych here that same kind of idea where you have two different shots. You obviously you're going for the geisha look, but um it's not so much as it's not the same as the last set of images where it was all in consequential order and you were just kind of waiting for the right moment to unfold. This was more a matter of which tells the story better for you, right?
Well, it's also, yeah, the story. And also, I just want to get a little cultural information in here to tell the audience. And that's the fact that now, as of, I think it's probably been the last 6 months or 8 months in Japan, in Kyoto, in the Gion district, which is where the geishas usually are from and where the clubs are, and it has great narrow streets. It's a wonderful place to photograph, but as tourism has thrived now in Japan, and as more people have a camera with them, which is also a phone these days. So everyone's got the phone with the camera, and people start chasing down geishas on their way to work or when they're shopping, and they're it's fairly rude the way it's done. Now I'm showing the picture because I am guilty of the same thing. I was walking through the street, see the geisha coming, and boom, 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 I got the picture on the top. Just a street grab. So the other side to the story is we did have an opportunity to do a setup with geishas, which was, legit. And so I did the picture on the bottom in a geisha restaurant, excuse me, and lit it. And as much street stuff I do as I do, I still use lights a lot when I'm trying to work inside and I really want to tell a story in a certain way. So I've got two lights here. And the trick was you want to keep the face really pretty much flatly lit and bright because they wear that white makeup. And that's part of the emphasis. And then the red lips really come out against the white makeup. And also with the lighting now, you could see on the lips, there's a specular highlight, a glow from my lights that are, lighting up her lower lip. And then I've got a second light in sort of in the back, be a little behind, just to put a glow on her hair. But it was just interesting working with these women because they know how to pose. That's their life, is body
Mm.
language and different body movements. So you just direct them a little bit and you get the nice look to it.
And your composition again, the micro composition. I always with your images, I always pay attention to probably the stupidest little details that no one else pays attention to except for me. But it's like the little the little things where is that a fan she's holding, and it's like the
Yeah,
corner
and
of
the
it.
red on the end of the fan with the lips is good, and I've got
Yeah, and it
a
matches on
dull,
the top.
yeah,
It's like the little accent details, the bottom of the fan, it doesn't overlap her jawline. Her hand is kind of right in line, with the shape of the way she's turned and with the shape of the kimono that she's wearing. The bottom corner of the fan, how it comes right to the edge of the hand. It's just everything is lined up so nicely. Even her hand, that's something that a lot of people don't realize that until they go back and they look at images and they're like, damn, I should have, this hand looks so weird, or why did I put that hand there, or why did I not change? Are you paying attention to all this stuff, or is it kind of just autopilot at this point?
I a lot of it is just after you've been doing this so long, things look right to you. It feels
Mhm.
right. But when you mention the hand, the one area where I usually don't do well is with hands.
Interesting.
Getting the hands so they're not like crooked looking. But in this one, I got lucky because these women know how to pose the hands themselves. I'm really bad at it. I have friends that are good at posing hands.
Yeah, it's like I never realized how much of a thing it was until I think it was a wedding photographer who first shined the light of importance on it, where it was like how important hands were, and I'm like, never really paid attention. But then you look in some images, it can make or break an image, whether it's distracting or not.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you start getting closer and you have to start looking at how people's fingernails are. There's, hands
Opens up a
suddenly
whole
become
world.
a micro composition within itself.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other thing that I liked in
Oh, go
that
ahead.
picture was the background wall color, that sort of rust red,
Yeah,
didn't take away too much. It was, perfect. I got into this room and I'm looking at these different lo, locations within this restaurant, and I see this wall and I go, okay, this is going to be it. We can make this wall work.
yeah. I think if it's more red, it doesn't work with it. Kind of clashes with the red. It helps that red pop out, but it fits the entire scheme. And then obviously that more orange rust pairs perfectly with that soft blue and the yellow. It's like it's harmonious.
Yeah, styling is a whole art to itself, and I don't usually do that much styling. I'll light things up just and let the styling be natural. But when you're dealing in with Japan and the perfectness of their culture and everything is correct and beautiful, you've got to carry that process through.
Definitely. Back to Cuba.
Back to Cuba. This was on one of my early morning walks. What are we calling this? Dawn patrol. We'll we'll do another one. We'll do another event about
Yeah, we got to
shooting.
dig into that.
Yeah, dawn patrol. But when cities are waking up, there's so much going on. When stores are opening, people are starting to move to go to work. And in Cuba, the public transportation system isn't the best. So there are these areas where guys with cars will park and they'll take routes along certain streets, and people will know this guy goes down this calle and makes a right there, and they'll pile in and pay him you know a nominal sum of money and start getting to work that way. And it's really and I loved it. I said, wow, this is great. This is so inventive. and clever, because you have people with cars that need to make money. You have people that need to get to work, and it all came together. And so I'm photographing it, and also because it is so early in the morning, you've got fantastic light. And I'm just in there, and these ladies were very nice. I was probably throwing some Spanish at them, telling them how beautiful they are and how lovely they are.
Of course you were.
Yes, and they're laughing, and just, I've got a series on this, but just at the right moment, the girl in the back is got that shadow across her face, and this one's looking at me in the front seat, and the guy, the driver, who is not important in to see his face, is sort of looking away with the light on him and his t-shirt and the interesting hat. So it was just, a special moment here.
Yeah, totally. Now, did the Dawn Patrol, did it come about? I mean, everybody knows it's the most perfect light in the morning. I think there's just something about the morning that you don't get at sunset and golden hour and the end of the day, because there's that silence, and I feel like life kind of slows down in the morning. It's easier to kind of take everything in its own different beast. Is that, without going too much, because like you said, we'll do a Dawn Patrol special event for that. But is that what drew you to it the time? Is it the light ideally?
Well, it's the combination of the light, which is a natural, but it's a place waking up,
Mm.
things opening up, energy starting to build, people starting their day, getting going, having their coffee or to get them jump started. So it's, as you say, the end of the day, things are starting to quiet down. People are going home, they're tired. But in the morning, I always feel that energy that people have.
Yeah, and I think what grabs me in this image is it's like that perfect balance of, they know you're there. They're engaging. You can tell there's some sort of a connection, and I don't think, we always have to have this looking at the camera, post eye contact. It's like they obviously know there's a moment there that's shared between you, but there's still a candid nature. It's like the lady in the middle of the car is looking forward, the guy looking out the window. I start poking around again. I always take all your images in such great detail. The guy pointing the finger in the back, and then even beyond there, there's a guy. There's so much going on in this one frame, but you're just drawn into these two women, and there's not even like direct posed eye contact. There's that candid nature that I think is still so romantic about street images. Sometimes when they're too posed, when they're too perfect, so to speak, you lose something.
Yeah, there's over time, I don't know what it is, but when you're on the street photographing people, I try not to just do the quick Gary Winograd, snap and run, get one
Mm.
image, because there's a beauty to those images, but for my obsessive compulsive mind, the composition in those kind of images is always bad, but that's part of the look, where you just snap an image and the background's busy and poles are growing out of people's heads. I like more control, and somehow I'm able to, with body language and just smiling and a couple of words, get into a situation where people at first are, noticing you.
Mm.
And then at some point, people forget I'm there, and it gets this natural look. And that's what I strive for, is that natural look, but close in. I'm always in with the wide lens. I'm not standing across the street with a 200 millimeter zoom. And the other thing that I do and I love is working. If I'm working in close with people, is silent mode on the Sony camera. Most of the cameras have that now, silent shutter. Because if people hear the clicks, and I'll tell a story if we get to at the end, but when people hear the clicks, at some point it's, well, doesn't he have enough?
Interesting.
I'm hearing that click, 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 click. Well, why is he still taking pictures? You just take one or two. So not hearing the click really helps you when you're in close to people.
That's interesting. I never thought about it in that regard. And ultimately, if you take it a step further, if somebody starts thinking or processing that, it affects, like, if I zone out and you're taking pictures of me, you can see me zone out. And I think you kind of lose a little bit of that. Like here, there's just this, her expression, it's almost like a Mona Lisa type expression on both of the women. And I think that plays so well without over reading into anything. I think we love a mystery. We love an expression that kind of, you don't know where it sits.
So
Beautiful,
this,
beautiful shot.
yeah, this is one I really, besides the story and it's the image just all came together. It was well, I guess we're back in Cuba again. Uh, this was about less than a year ago in Vinales, Cuba, where I've gone a lot. It's the tobacco farming capital of Cuba. And I photographed a lot of different people. And one morning, again, early in the morning, we're driving around, and this area, it's that funny little hill mountain in the back, is a karst or magote. It's it's a known geographical structure. You see them even in Hanalei Bay in Vietnam. All those rock formations are the same geology as this. And this one is in this guy's farm, and you can't not notice a guy with a white horse. And it's not the Lone Ranger either.
No, totally. And again, composition, everything, the dog up to the hand, everything's layered nicely. It's like this nice rule of thirds. It's like the frame is so perfect, even where their heads fall. It's like
Well,
everything's just,
it was, yeah, I shot a lot because I knew this was a great moment. And originally the guy was on the horse. And then when he got off the horse, what he started interacting with the dog. And this dog was probably the one of the smartest, most well-behaved dogs I ever have run across. I mean, the dog and the guy had such a terrific connection. And I'm shooting, and sometimes the dog's in the wrong place. Sometimes I'm in the wrong place. The horse's head is wrong, but this one moment with the dog just sort of licking the guy's hand, and it just is this connection between man and the horse, the dog, his, you know, his life out there working in the fields, in touch with nature, in touch with his animals. It was just a terrific moment.
yeah, totally. And I think, again, this is why it's great to hear your words on it, because how many people would look at this and probably, you have the white horse there. It becomes all about the horse and not about the dog. And I think that is an important, it's like that connection between man and dog is so powerful. And there's so many stories behind it. And it's so relatable, much more relatable than I think, we don't hear about man and horse as much, but I think even that for me, it's like, I think I went straight to the horse. And then as you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm like that connection. I don't know. It
Yeah,
opened up a whole nother world to me.
and then just the environment is such a natural landscape environment, with
Mhm.
everything. So, yeah, this one's high on my list.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. There's that light again.
So, this is when I do zoom the lens to 70 millimeters.
This is
And
one of the rare non-environmental way, but I love to see this.
it's it's not totally environmental, but there's a little bit of those are tobacco leaves in the
Okay.
background. And I've traditionally you could get pictures of these farmers and they always like pulling out their big cigar and lighting it up, and you get, if you do it in a dark barn, the flame of their lighter and the smoke is coming, and it's the picture that I've taken many times. But this guy had these great eyes. I mean, the eyes were just wow.
Yeah, I mean that's what really sells the image right there is the eye that it's sharp but it's soft, the lightness of the eye. I'm not even gonna lie, man. I didn't even realize the smoke when we were looking at this image the other day, and it's like everything I'm looking at, I'm drawn into that eye. I'm drawn into the light. I see the tobacco leaves. Now that you say it, I can see the outline and the shape as anyone who's ever seen tobacco leaves out drying and cigar making images. But I didn't even realize the smoke wrapped up around his face.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that which is brought out by the light, but it was just that, and that's not my lighting. That's just some natural sunlight that he walked into. And I said, whoa, hold it there. And so it's the light, the eyes, it just really came together for me. And of course, the hat's great.
Yeah, the texture, the color palette is, it has like this monochromatic color palette that works, and the texture of the hat, it's like almost I look at this and it's like, when people overlay and they get the what is it, the Fibonacci spiral, when you get the people who go into composition and they start breaking it down, it's like it gives me this like Fibonacci spiral effect where it's like the textures of the hat bring your eye over to the tobacco leaves, and then it all wraps around and the smoke brings you back into the eye, and it's like without people being like, wow, this guy's really like, what is he on? He's doing too much here. But it does. I mean, your eye, a well composed image takes your eye and your brain around the frame in a nice harmonious manner.
Yeah. And sometimes, most people look at a picture and they just say, oh, I like it, but they don't understand why until it's broken down.
Totally.
Other photographers can see it, but it was just a nice moment there. And I, when I go into a place, if there's nothing major happening, the first thing I do is look for interesting light. Okay, there's nothing really big going on here. I'll start looking for some interesting light because I know I could work with the light.
Yeah. And the light, when you have good light, I feel like good light can really take over an image in a way that even great composition is hard to really, it doesn't seize control of the viewer like good light does. Back in the States.
Yeah, yeah, I thought I'd throw yeah, everything I'm doing is around the world, so I occasionally do take pictures here in the States. It was July 4th, and I was in uh Bexley, Ohio, outside Columbus, and they have this really nice parade, and I'm walking around, and I decided this day to take my handheld strobe with me, my shoe mount speedlight Pro Photo, I don't know the number, but I put the remote on the camera so I could hold the strobe in one hand and get some. I thought, okay, I don't play around like this often. This is a perfect time, and I was shooting the parade, lighting people up, boom. And I see this guy in the car, and I start speaking to him, and I'm trying to get the shot with the light, and he's cooperative. I've got my hand around the windshield. I finally said to him, could I put the strobe on your dashboard? And let's see how that works. And I literally just put the strobe on the dashboard, started talking to him, and shot away.
How many shots did you take?
I didn't do a lot here. There are a couple where I'm moving around and I was concerned about him covering the girl next to him and the guy in the back. So, I was, maybe I did a dozen pictures here moving the strobe around. But I just like, again, just like the other shot with the light. Sometimes I just like working with light, whether I create it myself or I see it naturally.
And again, like the Cuba image with the women in the car, it has that same kind of feel. Even though he's looking and engaging with you with the eye contact, the girl in the back, the guy in the back, they're just and for me, I don't know, being a street photographer, I always just think the less is like a perfect balance of engagement and candid, kind of in the same frame. And I don't know if that makes sense or if anybody who, if I'm out there just throwing stuff out into the ether that people are like, wait, what? But there's just something, if they were all looking at the camera and it was two posed or they're all smiling, for me, the expressions that they have, it makes it such a real moment.
And the other thing I love is it was an old car, and you look at that steering wheel he's got there. I think it's an old Chevy.
Old
Not
Malibu.
sure,
Yeah.
but it was just a fun thing for me to do. Going, hey, I'm here. It's 4th of July. Parades themselves are not exciting. I like shooting the edges of the parades, and I have total access. I don't need a police pass. I could just walk through this whole parade. And why not bring the strobe and try something different? I'm not
Yeah.
working for anyone. I'm just shooting for myself.
I love that. You're way less lazy than I am, Ira. That strobe's not coming out unless there's a check attached to it. Love this. Where was this?
So this is in India, and this is in an area called Bodh Gaya. I had been in India shooting in the north, and I've I was always interested in Buddha, and I've shot a lot of monks through Asia. And so I get finished in Rajasthan, and I realize it's a short plane ride to go to Bodh Gaya, and that's the place in India where Buddha was enlightened and became the Buddha. And I thought, I'm so close. I should go there and visit it. And there's a big uh, Mahabodhi temple complex there. And yeah, I went there to shoot. And the funny thing about this story is it's very organized there. You have to go through metal detectors and different gates. You cannot bring a cell phone, but you could bring a camera,
Interesting.
which was
Did you
very
have a big
interesting.
you had a big setup here, or was this your normal?
No, I just brought my camera. I had, probably Sony A1 and the 2470. So, but most places say, oh, no cameras, but people bring cell phones. This was the opposite. So I was there during the daytime shooting, and I stuck around at night because night's always interesting at these places. And then I run across this, and it's people meditating for hours, hours and hours,
Wow.
and they don't want to get disturbed by bugs or mosquitoes. So they have these little mini tents that they meditate in.
I was gonna ask. I didn't know if it was like a pandemic era thing. It reminds me of I saw devices like this employed at like outdoor dining areas, and so it was just for the sheer length of time paired with the environment, the
Yeah,
bugs.
the insects. It was crazy. At first I was I finally found out, why it was going on. And, again, I'm looking at the composition. I've got the foreground and the little diagonal going off. And the great thing about shooting people meditating is they don't see you, they don't pay attention, so you could shoot.
Is there like a proximity? I know you like to get up close. It looks like there's a little. I mean, I can tell you're shooting wide, but there's still a little bit of distance between you.
I'm gonna look, I'll see what let me look at the metadata on that one, if see what length lens I was shooting.
Let's see. I'm gonna guess 24. Let's see how good I am.
Uh Close, 26 millimeters.
I should have upped it.
Yeah, you're good enough.
Ballpark.
So yeah, I just like the feel of the picture. And of course at night it makes it look a little more dramatic.
Yeah.
Uh and I'll tell you the reason why there were no cell phones but cameras. I think 10 years ago there was an explosion at this temple by some radical group, and they set the explosion off with using a cell phone signal or something. So boom, no big boom, and now no more cell phones in here, but yeah, bring your cameras.
Interesting. That plays into this one as well.
Well, this now, now we're on our Buddhist topic. Uh this is in Lumbini, Nepal, which is where the Buddha was born. And again, going out early in the morning, and instead of good light, you get fog, which is as good as good light. It's a look, it's a feel. And this felt really good to me. These monks walking through the fog, and simple composition, not a lot of layering, just a nice, easy composition. And I felt good being there. I felt that I was in a special place, and I felt a connection. So that's why I like putting this photo in at this point.
And again, the composition, the leading lines, even like that, like you said, that fog. It reminds me of the picture that we started on with the fishermen, or the fishermen with the, you had the fishermen in the background and the mountains, and it's like it's barely visible. It's like just enough there to not be distracting, but it still gives you like a sense of place.
Yeah, fog is very tricky. It's if you too much, you don't see anything. Too little, you don't have the feel. There's that balance.
Mm. And that plays in, of course, the proximity as well. It's like how, however close you are, depending on how thick the fog is and how close your subject is to the background, all that stuff kind of plays
Yeah,
in
and
as
you
well.
use a longer, yeah, you use a longer lens, you're going to be shooting through more fog. So it tends to make it more dense.
Mm. Our final image here, I love this.
So I just threw this in because in when COVID hit, I decided to do a story about my mother. So in this image, which was 4 years ago, she was 100 years old and she still ran her shop. And I've been since back in about 20, I've been documenting her. She passed away last month, and almost 104. Her time had come, and she still was working in the shop to the last day. But I just this one image has a certain feel for me. She looked so healthy and so young here, and she's got all her paperwork. She's got the mask from COVID. And I was using, I think, a Sony A7C because it's a small camera. So even my own mother would, hear the clicks and say, Ira, don't you have enough already? So that's where turning the camera onto silent mode, I realized she doesn't know how many pictures I'm taking. She, goes about her work, but when she hears it, she she's going, "You got too many pictures. When are you going to stop?" So that's what opened up my eyes to the secret about using silent shutter.
It's the pro tip of the day. Did
Really,
she love images, or was she, because I remember when we talked about this project back when excuse me, when were documenting it, and I thought it was so cool. And it's like it is something that we are faced with the older we get, with the power of photography and how we capture images of those we love, and these are the images that live on. And it's something that it's like, as I see my parents getting older, my mother hates the camera. And it's like I would love to document it, and it's like every time it's just I look old and I hate the camera. You better not show this to anyone. And it's like, how did your mother receive you documenting her final years?
in the beginning, it was a little tough, but I think what she liked about it was I was going to Brooklyn to see her. So if she wanted me to come to Brooklyn, she knew I was going to be taking photos of her. And she, I never showed her the pictures because,
Interesting.
because I've got tens of thousands of pictures over the years. Because I knew if she saw some of the pictures, it would be my hair's not right, the makeup's not right. So the trick there is don't show the pictures.
You're giving away
And
all the house secrets today.
yeah, but and And this was an interesting time for me because we're in COVID. There's not a lot of business going on. I decided to shoot this. The first day I was out, I was shooting in color and saying, color doesn't work. And I'm a color photographer. It's, all my years at National Geographic, it's all the world in color. And I just said, I'm going to go black and white. And the amazing thing was, and I didn't realize this, when I'm shooting a raw file plus a JPEG. When you turn this JPEG setting on to black and white, in these mirrorless cameras, you look through the viewfinder and you're seeing in black and white. So you really get a sense of what your picture is going to look like. Before mirrorless, when you're shooting black and white film on your Leica or whatever, you're looking at the viewfinder and you're seeing the world in color.
Yeah.
And you've got to, in your head, know what black and white's going to look like.
Mm.
But the mirrorless world, you're seeing in black and white. And I just loved it. I just fell in love with it. The silent shutter, and it was a little Sony A7C, then C2, which is small camera, small lens on it. I was using, I think, fixed focal length lenses with her. So
Mhm.
I wasn't putting a big optical package in front of her face.
Yeah.
And eventually she got used to it.
It helps when your son's Ira Block. Maybe that's why my mother won't. Maybe
You
you
want
should
me to
come over.
shoot your mother-in-law?
You should come over. Yeah, I was just gonna say, we'll take a little drive one day. Just put the silent shutter on and don't show her. I
Yeah,
learned a
don't
couple
show
tips
the
today.
pictures. Yeah, but this was a great project to work on because I spent more time with her as a result of it, and I got to know her a little better. And it it was a different type of photography because when I go to an interesting, exciting new place, there's always things to shoot. You're always, oh, I see this, I see, like your mind is totally stimulated. Here I have one subject, and I've got to think of creative ways of shooting that one subject to make a story out of it. So it was a good learning photographic experience for me also.
Mm, I love that. It's really it's a beautiful image. I'm so glad that we did end on such a meaningful image and a black and white image because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like sitting through and I'm like, have I ever seen? I'm like, or rarely, like rarely a black and white image out of you.
Not since I started working and went, working for the newspapers and wire services back in my early days. And then I went to Nat Geo and Kodachrome, Fujichrome. That was it.
That's all she wrote for the black and white.
Yeah.
This was a good. I just realized, as we're sitting here talking images, it's like we only ever talk photography in this. It's like when we meet up, we're talking about how Stephanie doesn't have a. No, let me stop. She's gonna jump on here and. But it's great to hear your thoughts, behind these images and what makes a strong image to you and how much of the backstory really does play. I mean, very little of this, or not very little, but I think the stories and the moments leading up to the images really, in my mind, outweighed the little technical decisions. And it shows you how little the technical aspect plays in. I mean, it kind of, after so many years of doing this, the technical part is kind of just it's instinct at that point, but it's really what leads up to it, and what are or what are the things happening that cause you to want to press the shutter.
Yeah, you know, the great thing about photography and in my life is it's opened up stories and people to me, meeting people, and it's the connection you can get when you have a camera. And then 10 years later, 5 years later, whenever, and you're looking at those pictures, it brings back the smell. I could, God, I remember when I was there, I sort of remember what it smelled like and what the sounds were. It stimulates your memories and the people you met, and you go, wow, I haven't been in touch with him in a while. I should shoot him an email or something, see what's going on. So photography is creating images for other people to see, but it's also creating the stories that make up your life, your own life as a photographer. It's all, it's great. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I didn't take pictures, right? You know,
It's giving you purpose.
yeah,
I love that. And that's a perfect way to wrap this whole thing up. It really is. It's like your own journal of your life, and it's so much easier when you have a visual cue to remember something. I mean, obviously, I think most photographers inherently are visual people. So it makes sense that having an image to take you back to how many of these moments were moments you probably wouldn't remember if you didn't have a photo, something that kind of just gets lost in the mix as the years and decades go on. And then you see a photo of it, and instantly it's like, boom, recognition. It takes you back.
yeah, just, yeah, I go through my archive years and years ago, and it's like I'm back there again.
How often do you pour through your old images?
Usually, when we get a request for something and I type in the keyword and that one shows up along with other ones that are near to those keywords, I'll go, wow, again, I'll start coming up with stuff and I go, oh, I remember that person. I should send them, oh, did I send them a copy of that image? Maybe I should. It's so easy now. It's if it's an old film image that I had scanned, I just, boom, drag it off and email to somebody.
Interesting. You go off in the rabbit hole ever and just start one picture leads you in. 2 hours later, you're still looking through old images.
Yeah, yeah, it's it's trying to put all your thoughts together about where was I that year and what was I doing and what did I learn in the people I met? And then you start going deeper into it.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting, interesting stuff. Well, Ira, it's always great to have you on, but this was extra special, like I have said, to get inside your head and really see what makes you tick when you're out there with a camera and what you're looking for. And it's always interesting and inspirational, but it's also educational at the same time. I think looking at these images and hearing about the decisions that you made leading up to the images helps me. It helps other people who are really looking for more purpose and, looking at images and saying, okay, well, why do I feel this when I look at his images? And I'm looking at one of mine. It's like, what isn't computing or what isn't really taking it to that next level. So this is super helpful to get inside your mind a little bit and see what makes great images of a great photographer. So I want to thank you on behalf of all of our audience, the entire team here. We love having you on, man.
It's great, we always have you always help bring out some memories for me, that's for sure.
I love that. Love that. Well, Ira, huge thank you. Of course, a secondary thank you to Sony for supporting us and helping to host wonderful content like this. So, huge thank you to them. Of course, Ira, and to all of our viewers out there. We hope you guys enjoyed this and have been enjoying this series. That is all we have for you for today. Another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space, now in the books. Catch y'all next time.